Hello everyone, this is Floxcat, and I kind of wanted. Admittedly, I was planning to do a recording, and I did do one recording, but I deleted it yesterday. And I was already planning on talking about this, but I was kind of nervous to kind of talk about this because I don't want to accidentally overshadow this situation because honestly, it's something that it's very risque to talk about and stuff, and B, I was just nervous because it's getting some place where I don't, usually talk about anymore, which is kind of funny because it's kind of the subject of a lot of things. But since this is about my closest friend, and I want to support him as best as I can, alongside the fact that someone already have released a video on his video, I decided to, step up to the plate and talk about my own discussion about the situation because it is a very interesting situation. And this is admittedly coming from a person who wants to admittedly be somewhat of a actual example of what my friend was talking about because I've been through a situation like this before. And I barely usually talk about this anymore. I don't even give a shit about this topic anymore. But I kind of wanted to bring up this because it's kind of funny because surprisingly enough, I'm shocked that this is even still a problem. I thought it was just at least my example, I thought it was just a one and done deal, but it's definitely gone to the point where it's not. And honestly, I do figure that coming from a person who not only experienced what he's talking about firsthand as well, but got but has even but also feels so bad for him that what's happened to him. I kind of do want to share my thoughts. To quickly explain, and this will be a long video, but as always, I don't care anymore about what people think about me talking too much, but really, I do recommend before continuing, watch the video down the link down below. Uh, in short, and in question, this is about, of course, my friend GP Reed, who released a video about the problems involving ARG. Of course, he kind of clickbaity in some way with it being like an analog horror thing as well, but he does talk about analog horror. I don't know, that's his idea, but it is still a video tackling the main issues of ARG. And like I said, his point is not only right, but I have my own experience as well. Although I will say, holy crap, he got the more worse harder to stick than I have. Because as revealed in that video, he got kicked out of a ARG community and got blocked because he made one theory video of something, a one small theory, and the creator of that ARG did not like it so much, which is the most dumbest thing on the planet, that they blocked him because they just made an idea theory, which you could see why that's the most dumbest thing on the planet. Like, it was just a simple idea, theory of what's going to happen, and da 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 da. Like, what? That's like the stupidest thing. And it makes my story, which I'm going to talk about, a whole less worse than this situation. But either way, I don't know when this happened, but it did happen. I presumably a couple of months ago, because I bet it didn't just happen right then and there of the video. I recommend he explains when it happened, but the main point of the video is the point of his video was tackling the problem of how ARG communities are very toxic, and literally, if they don't fix themselves, they'll literally cannibalize each other, aka meaning they'll destroy each other. And not only do I believe in that, but like I said, I've been through an experience with that. Not like it's not the same as he went through, but admittedly, it's something that pretty much, something that's similar. And before you ask, no, this isn't something similar lines of, another certain person that wasn't even ARG, and we patched that thing literally months ago. I'm glad we did. Um, and all that. But this is definitely different, especially that situation, because that situation, that was just a whole misunderstanding. Both sides of the party was being idiotic, especially me. And of course, in the end, we fixed it up because it was just one person and blah, blah. Though, ironically, that does kind of somewhat can connect to this because it's not just a situation with ARGs, it's also a situation involving any type of community. Like, for example, like the Pokemon franchise. I know it's weird to make a Pokemon reference, but one thing I will say that I'm never going to be truly like of Pokemon, other than Pokemon Let's Go and Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shine Pearl, that's a joke, but also not, is the community involving Pokemon. Not all of them, because really most people who like Pokemon aren't really, you know, but to be frank, it kind of following like this one YouTube poop joke that I saw that's kind of a good point. 25 years of bitching, of course. And the reason why I even bring this up is not just ARGs, but other online communities as well have dealt with this problem for a bunch of reasons. Like, there's a lot of toxicity with them, and it's not surprising. I mean, it's not rocket science of that. However, I do believe the ARG community is in a big risk, and to be fair, GP Reed made very good points to the point where I'm literally I mean, kind of be like, yeah, like I'm speechless, but yeah, it's kind of is true when you think about it. Like the fact that you know ARGs are becoming more and more, pretty much stale, and they're trying to follow up the commit of the big wigs of these ARG communities, which obviously definitely is dumb and stuff. Like, and it really is something interesting. And it does go back to the point of where I come from and how this happened. Now, again, I usually don't talk about this story anymore, and I keep my mouth shut about it as most as I can, unless it's brought up and stuff. But ever since going through this trivial trivialize events, and since it's been kind of a I've been trying to do a little bit, I've been finally learning how the ropes of the internet kind of thing. I figured now it's time to kind of talk about it a little bit more. And honestly, in the first video I was keeping my mouth shut of it, but now thinking about it, I think it's best to kind of explain my side of a story that's similar to it. And to be fair, everyone, one of the reasons why I don't talk about it is everyone already knows the story. It's not rocket science and stuff. And honestly, it's literally the least of interesting story. Like, again, it makes GP Reed's own story looks like holy hell compared to this, and it's like, oh, this is just trash. But honestly, it does go back to an example, and ironically, it kind of this happened way before this certain thing started popping up and stuff. And literally, it's definitely interesting because unlike the situation, like I said, another situation, which I use example of a little bit, that's different because me and that person got over it, especially me, because it was easy. We just decided to apologize to each other and finally talk it over and take it slow. And B, this is much more of a serious situation than that, because that was just foolishness, to say the least, on my part. However, this is actually way more serious because it definitely had more trauma to me, and to this day, still don't like these events. Like, especially if you know where I come from and da da da. So to quickly explain, as you guys know, back at the very beginning of this channel, this particular channel, Foxcat, it was originally going to be somewhat of a ARG kind of thing, even before the whole fiasco I'm about to talk about. Like, because I did like ARGs, and I still somewhat do, but it debatable depends on, I kind of do fall out of it. Like, the only ARG stuff I watch is literally literally just analog horror now, and really that's the only thing I watch because I just like it. But for the most part, originally I was a big, huge fan of literally the ARG wigs, if you, and I'm going to call them that because that's what they kind of are. And before you say anything, I do know they're not all bad. I am very aware that they're not really bad. I do understand their situation, and not all of them are pretty much bad. It's just the fact that it just shows problems that they're probably being either ignorant to many people's feelings and how they situation, or really they're starting to lose focus of what's the point of their channels, to say the least. Because it's very crucial to say the least. But either way, I was a big fan. I was trying to make my ARG, and I made a couple of ARGs before. I made Kotai. My original channel was supposed to be one whole ARG, but it didn't work. But hey, at least I still got those cool drawings. And honestly, that was like back when I was like, pretty much haven't gotten into the actual adult. I was like 18 or around that, or I think I was an adult. I was probably in my 20s when I started doing that. I don't remember. You can look it up, but that was like back when I was staying in the foster family and blah blah. But either way, as many people know, I got into this beef with a creator known as Nathan Barnett. For those who do not know, Nathan Barnett was this guy who made this ARG called Dad Feels, which I bet a lot of people don't remember it anymore, which makes sense because honestly, looking back at it, I'm surprised anyone got a big fan of it in the first place. I mean, looking back at it, it's fine if you are. I don't understand it still anymore, especially after this incident. Um, but anyone knows that I've been paying attention to that series before. However, as people also remember, they did start to do a collab with this person. Did a collab with a bunch of other of the big wigs, and they made this whole lawsuit crap bullshit thing because obviously I guess lawsuits were a big thing, and I did a video trying to debunk the whole thing. It kind of escalated from there, and I was kind of like on the side of the big wigs. So what ended up happening was I decided to start game jacking. For those who do not know, game jacking is kind of a weird thing where you decide to make your own version of the story. It's of course, it's not same as fan fiction in kind of way. Sometimes I do agree they're similar. You can shoot me because I know they're probably not. Honestly, it's kind of a flip a coin a day of a week kind of thing how you describe it. But game jacking is definitely a very interesting thing. But what is very critical was the fact that I was getting more and more upset at the fact that I felt like they were trying to pull off something like a cult in that saying. And I do believe it still was a cult. The fact that they started trying to market themselves as a cult, it's just like, who the fuck does that? And it is true. Like, granted, it wasn't really a cult. It was just more of a, ironically, what we're talking about, a toxic fan base. But the fact that they went so far as that was really screwy. So what I did was I made a second channel in order to cover more of the darker stuff at the time. Because at the time, I wanted to separate my channel from the two. And I made a second channel that's somewhat deleted. I don't remember what happened to it. I mean, I still don't know what's going to happen to it. It's kind of like now a dead channel. Honestly, it's probably going to be truly deleted soon because I repurposed that channel. But there was a channel I made called Dark Party. And what ended up happening was, surprisingly, I got into beef with Nathan Barbett. Now, usually when you expect hearing that, you're like, Foxcat, that doesn't sound like beef at all. And trust me, it's like the smallest beef you could ever think of, to say the least. It's literally like so small, it's not probably even beef. But what happened was I started a one-man war against a army of literally mainly very toxic people, because honestly I was literally getting annoyed of the fact that this person, it really rubbed me the wrong way, to the fact that they were upset at me for like making this dark parties supporting these thing, and I'm like, you can invite any person ever, and yet you didn't invite, you didn't want anyone other than that. It's like really ugh. And again, it wasn't like it wasn't just like the fact that I wasn't being part of the story or whatever. I was just getting confused of what was really going on with this whole thing, ARG. And many people who does remember Dark Party, um, literally knows that I really was biting my teeth on these guys until something happened where I finally realized, oh, these Dark Party assholes, and really some of them are not, but mainly I still call them assholes for this, or dicks, were actually a part of Dad Feels BS. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And then the whole thing went bluey. I ended up deleting the Dark Party channel because I couldn't handle all the attacks the community was giving at me. And to be fair, it was fair attacks, but they were definitely gruesome with those attacks, to say the least. And it started getting personal. It really did got very personal. And there was a certain point a couple of years ago, literally when I first moved into this apartment, um, I finally decided to do another response to something that I won't get into, but it was pretty stupid. And I'll admit it was stupid. And now looking back at it, it was pretty stupid. Although I will say it kind of backs up to the point of the problem a little bit with the toxicity, but my response was stupid. I'm not gonna lie, especially with the situation itself, because it was a very. And if you want to ask about it, go ask what it was. I was stupid back then, but now I learned my lesson from it. But what happened was I did a literally attack video of all that, and then there was just one person who was so toxic. I don't know if he was with Night Mine and Nexpo, and I'm shooting them both. And I know there's more, even GB Reed and another person shout them out as well. But those are two major ones that have literally hatred for them now for this. But what ended up happening was this one person who was a fan of them literally forced me almost to commit. Like, I have to do that now because YouTube will censor it. But yeah, they wanted me to off myself. Of course, I didn't really do that, thank God. And of course, I really wasn't going to do that, but it really was an emotional state of, da da da. And I have done that before many times, actually, believe it or not, because I have some mental issues, and that's fine. I don't hide it. I mean, I do hide some more darker parts of my mental issues, but if you call me out for mental issues, that's fine. I'm not psychopathic like many other people say, because it's really fucking stupid that people keep saying I'm psychopath. That's fucking dumb, and you need to shut the fuck up with that. But for the most part, I do have mental disabilities and stuff, and it was really to the point where it caused disaster. To the point with that event in particular, it traumatized me to the point where I literally fall off from the ARG part for a while now. And that leads us to, of course, why I'm bringing this all up. Because as many people may have noticed, because of those incidents, I still went back to doing those ARG stuff. But because of those incidents, it really taught me a bunch of things. And the interesting part about this is I did try to go back to looking up ARGs. And to be fair, I did somewhat dud that. But as many people may have noticed, the only two ARGs I truly tackled were GP Reed and Mikey's, Lugo's ARGs. Like, I know people are going to say, Mikey, Lugo, blah, blah, blah. Look, that's a whole can of worms that I won't get into. That's a very different can of worms. Deal with it. But the reason why, and mostly GP Reed, is, and I actually do respect him, and this is even more now that I respect him for this, but that's because, as kind of proven recently right now, GP Reed actually knew how to handle his community stuff and blah, 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 and stuff. And he knew exactly how to handle it without a toxic way, and that's kind of where the problem lies into, because you would think that communities like Dad feels, because if you've seen this ARG, you'll be like, yeah, this thing isn't even as dark. I see more darkness in PT than this bullshit. Or I don't know whether, well, not PT. I think a more calmer horror. What is most rated teen slash E horror I can think of? I don't know, but literally, it's not even that horror. But yet, you would think that because of that, it wouldn't get like have a very toxic community, but they did. It did have a toxic community, and literally, it was very bad. And the worst part about this situation, about this, is I remember some person said, you know, next post that he was sorry, blah blah blah, on one of my channel, on my videos back in the day when that incident happened. I'm like, why don't he post that instead? Why don't he just say that to my face and all that BS? Because he was the one, along with Nightmine and with others, who kind of pushed me forward because they didn't, talk actually talk through me and explain what the hell was going on. Because that's the thing. Like, I understand why they didn't want to break character, but there's a difference to literally handling your series or trying to main character and literally trying to maintain control of what's going on outside, because it's really a very difficult scale. And again, I don't have really much, like, I do hate, to say the least. I still have a hate, but it has softened a little bit, especially towards someone like, I guess, Nexpo a little bit, because I don't think Nexpo, for the most part, was a bad guy. I would say that as well to Nathan, but Nathan kind of got himself in his own very controversial thing, and kind of proves the point that, I mean, I don't remember exactly how bad that controversy was, but it was pretty bad that I heard of, which doesn't surprise me. Again, I don't think he too was a bad person, but I don't know. You can't really trust these much. But Nightmine in particular, I do think is a bad person, to say the least. Um, and if he's not, then it's fine. I'll be on record saying I was wrong if he's not. It's just that if he's not, he's still a very ignorant person, because I think he's the best example of how bad the situation involving the AR community is. Because, for one, he really does go after other communities as well, to my opinion, my knowledge. I could be wrong with this accusation, but I do know he does not like people making fan fiction for some fucking reason, which is weird because, well, yeah, sure, it's fan fiction, but calling them and saying it is like playing doll in a dollhouse kind of crap is like, dude, that's the most offensive thing you could ever say. Because seriously, and this is coming from a person who does do fan fictions as well, but I've seen outside of my own work, because let's be real, my work is 50-50 good, 50-50 not. There are people who does a great job of writing it, especially more recent times. So, and there's people who do read out stuff I still watch. In fact, I recently been rewatching the Lost Narrators videos, with especially another Apple experiment, which I can't wait for next year, so we can finally finish that story. But you're telling me those stories are trash? You don't know nothing. You probably could never write a fan fiction, but really, that's just garbage. The other problem is the fact that he literally has a very bad problem of judging ARGs, which goes back to the whole toxicity part. He literally acts as a judge. Like, I remember the fact that he judged GP Reed's own ARG in the most hideous way possible on his stupid website. Like, if you think I'm lying, I wish I was, but no, he wasn't. Now, I don't remember how it went, but he was like, oh, this is just one guy in his basement, blah, blah. I'm like, there's more to it than GP Reed's own ARG. You literally missed it because you weren't willing to pay attention to it. I pay attention to it, and as we all know, I study it in throughout. And I'll admit, I did drop from it, which we'll talk about in a bit. But the fact that he literally is the judge of all these stuff, like, there's no doubt that there's others who does it as well, but they have their own reasons. But the fact of the matter is that some of these ARG people, especially Nightmine, judges people's works and just throw in the trash without knowing how good it is, that's completely bullshit. It really is. And it's the reason why it makes a lot of people feel like they can never do ARGs, and that's fair. And finally, he basically started causing a divide with this whole stupid. And this is my pick, but I do feel like it has more bad development, to say the least. But the fact that he like started this whole ARG or non fiction, no, unfiction story, which sounds like a worse version of trying to say nonfiction. And I'm like, it doesn't matter which is which. They're still the same thing. Yes, they're probably different two sides of the same coin, but it's still the same coin. It is weird that they try to split that off because people are just used to saying ARG. Now you gotta be an expert saying one or the other. That's completely stupid. That is 100% stupid. And really, it goes back to the whole point of literally the biggest problem with the ARG community is the fact that they're so toxic. You have to be specific of what they are. You can't be who you are in these communities. You cannot be what you are in these communities. And and that's kind of sucks. It really does. Like, I feel more bad to Grant because my story at least makes a little bit of sense on why that whole fiasco happened. Part of it was my fault because I game jacked and blah blah. But GP Reed should not be kicked out over some damn theory, which, be frank, anyone can make a theory of any work. Trust me, I have theories on my work and they're really good ideas, and I don't mind. They're just theories. You either have to prove them wrong for your own story or just consider marking them down as good idea for material, not the kick the person out saying they're wrong. That's stupid. That's really stupid. It's really dumb and stupid. And it's like, ugh. And the whole reason why I'm doing a video and making this huge video is because this has had an effect on me. Like, because as many people could tell, my channel was kind of burnt out from ARG videos. I haven't even done GB Reads videos in a while. And honestly, that's because it's taking a while for the, high five friends, but also it's because I'm having my own situations. But mainly, even without GP Read, I haven't done any theory video as well. Like, my second channel literally is, and I don't care who people is, I'm willing to admit it. Candy Cat Girl is becoming more of a content farm than what it was supposed to have been. But to be fair, that was kind of always like the general structure. But I've been more focused on that because that's like I feel like I can only do now. Like, I stopped doing. Admittedly, I kind of not stop, but kind of balance the scale of whether I want to do an ARG or not because what's the point? Like, and I think Grant has a very good point of his point out of why it's so bad. Like, because on one hand, people will argue about your theory videos, but on the other, people have arguments of theory videos as well not doing great because it ruins the experience and stuff. And that's a fair point. Not to mention the ARG saying has been getting stale. And I'll admit this because I just admitted it earlier and I still admit this. I love analog horror, but I definitely see Grant's point of view when saying it's becoming oversaturated because like really it really is to the point where there's other series that aren't really analog horror. They just use the aspect of it but to put it in their videos because it's the only aspect they can do. And it's really sad. It's 100% sad. Like, again, I cannot speak for myself. Obviously, you can see there's a lot of debate on my end of the bargain, but I just wanted to make this video because I wanted to show support for GP Reed with this. I don't think this will be an uphill battle for him. It's just his, his opinion, his ideals, and honestly, I do hope for the best for him because I do think he's doing a great job. I do think he's doing a great job. He is a very good person. I thank him for what he does. Like, I think he's a perfect example. And really, it sucks to see him try to fight alone with this. So I'm just saying, I'm with him too on this. I don't want to have him to be alone in this. And you know, and I'll admit, I was gonna go ahead and do this video before the other guy, way before, but I didn't want to really feel like, I will admit I was a little cowerless because I didn't want to say anything wrong. I had to really think about it beforehand. And thankfully, also thanks to that guy actually making a video, which I haven't watched. I only watched half of it, but it is kind of interesting to the point where, like, okay, he was just talking about his own opinion, but he does agree with what Keeper Reed said. Um, it's literally just shows that he he's at the point. But the issue is, um, I think it's up to my at least to me to step up to the plate because both his channel uh, and a little bit of GB Reed, not all the way because GB Reed does still have a base subscriber account, but that's the thing, they don't have much people watching. But at least I know I do have a lot of people somewhat watching me, especially in the Candy Cat situation. I got like 2,000. So again, it's just trying to spread this message in the most positive way possible because it's a very serious situation. Honestly, I don't want this community to die either. I mean, yeah, I'm no longer truly a part of it because my experience with it, but I don't want the same experience to happen to people like me who have a very worse experience and could be even more worse to my situation. But that's all you can say. That's all I can say. Um, but yeah, this has been Floxcat. I hope my video does make sense, but I do want to at least express what's been going on. Anyways, snapping out of here. Bye bye.